Hey guys, so before we get started today, just a small quick announcement. I think going forward, I'm going to do more pre-recorded content instead of live streams. We'll still do the live streams once in a while, like when we cover specific subjects that we can cover in a single stream, single sitting. It just doesn't make sense to like do these little spurts of streams where I just make a little bit of progress on a project and not much happens. So um, for this week, we're going to start doing that. So this will be, I don't know, like part 5 or 6 of the doing the hair cards for a Groom for UE5. And I think when I get to the end of this project, I'll edit everything together for you guys. So you'll have like an easier time just going through it. But I'll keep posting these videos just for the few people who want it. I know it's not going to be a ton. Also, like during the live streams, because I don't have like a specific streaming schedule where I'm like coming in at a specific time, I don't get much of an audience really live. Um, there have been live streams where it's been really productive and we do get an audience to ask questions and I can answer those questions directly. When there's opportunities for that, that's when I think the live streams are most useful. The other thing is like my schedule is just really tight, so it can be hard to find a good time, a slot to just stream nonstop without getting any sort of interruption or having to go and do something else. And if I pre-record, I can just pause it, like I'll do right now. So just like that, like I just paused it. I stood up for a second, came back. We're still going, right? No interruptions for you guys. So this will be going forward. Won't spend too much time on this. I'll go into more details on the Discord, which I'll link in the description. You should join that if you want access to some of the tools and things that I use, some of the custom scripts. So check that out if you need it. So without further ado, we'll continue with our hair card stuff. All right, so we have our from the last stream, we're working on our cleaning up and placing all of these fill layer cards. And so I think now that we have a good idea of how this is going to start looking, I want to make adjustments to the texture. Because right now I feel like the strands are just too thin. And it's too dense. If we compare it to, like that's our actual fill layer. You can see it's not nearly as dense for sure, right? Because we were just guessing kind of when we were creating our textures. But as far as like alignment goes, it's pretty close. So there's no issues with that. So I'm going to shift the scene over back to our card baking setup. And then we're going to go make adjustments to our texture. All right. So we're back on our card groom. So we're going to go through each of these. I'm going to do like 1 or 2 recording, then I'll pause the recording, fix everything up, and we'll resume recording again. So start with our main. Actually, let's start with the problem textures right now. So it'd be these guys here. So this would be our card fill right there. Right now we're at 0.005 because that's what we did for our groom, which is honestly probably a little too aggressively thin. So we're going to try actually doubling that. We're going to go to 0.01. Okay. And then we're just going to add a little bit of a so the value here, I'm going to type in 0.8. And for the position, let's go with like 12%. 0.12. Same thing on this side. Okay. And we'll taper that tip a little bit. we were doing 0.8, right? And I mentioned this before, but the width value Unreal recommends for the actual grooms, the Xgen grooms, is 0.008 for realistic hair strands with no tapering at all. So basically, this is keeping the center thicker, but leaving the tips at that 0.008 width. That's why we're doing it that way. Okay, so we're still too thick here, or dense, I should say. So let's lower it to like 15. Okay. Actually, I'm gonna try a little bit less. Okay, for our other ones, I'm gonna do similar changes. Okay, you get the idea. So I'm gonna pause here and then we'll fix these. So one thing I realized is I didn't realize my cut modifier was so aggressive. Like I had this at 10. So we're just gonna reduce it a lot to keep this a little cleaner. And just to show you what I mean, we're on fill 02. If I change this back to like 10, you know, it just looks scattery. When I lowered the, this is how it was before. It was something like that. But I wanted to lower it and it was looking weird. So that's why. I can't remember what reason I would have had to do that. But there you go. And looking at my fill 03, like I didn't make any changes. The cut was already at 2. So I think that was just a mistake. Accidentally had that at 10. All right. Okay. Everything's updated as far as the width and adjusted densities a little bit. I'm gonna we're gonna try a couple more changes to this one here, and I think this one. So let's do that right now. I'm just gonna try different seeds, see if I get something better. A little bit closer to what I'm looking for. Okay, let's do fill 2. Sometimes if the results aren't perfect, but they're close, but there's some nagging issues, then you can try different seeds sometimes to get different random results. Maybe that 8 looks better. Like I don't like this stray that's just hanging out by itself. You could also just go in and mask those out too. I just go with 8. Actually 0. Okay, let's go with 0. Yeah, I'll just go with 0. All right, it is just a fill layer. I won't worry about it too much. All right, so next I'm gonna rebake these, and then we'll next time after the pause, we'll be back in the scene with the updated texture. Okay, so this is our updated texture map right here. We can see we're a lot thinner with the fill group, and we made adjustments all around. Everything looks good, so we can now see it in Maya with our updated texture. So now it pretty much just changed immediately because I just overwrote the old one, right? So we can check our UVs really quick on one of these. So need to adjust these a little bit. So let's do that real quick. We're just selecting all of these. I think I'm gonna keep I think I'm gonna keep the I'm gonna let it clip a little bit. I want the tips to be a little more dense. Okay, I think that's fine. Check all our sources. You can see we were able to fix a lot of the aliasing on the hair strands that was happening before because we made it a little thicker. That helps with the rendering. I think everything else looks mostly okay. Okay, let's hide those again. Okay. So that part is done. We corrected our textures. They look better now. Obviously, we're going to need a lot more fill, but let's finish placing these top pieces. And just as a reminder, last stream we were just fixing the orientation of these cards. Make sure they line up with the scalp. And I just like to hit the F key to recenter my camera on it. Makes it easier to control. At this point, I'll just pause the recording and I'll finish it. You get the idea, and then we'll go over it again after I finish these last few curves. So I wanted to show you this real quick. This one came oriented like this, and this is technically probably how it was, but I'm just gonna adjust that because I don't like the way it intersects with this piece. So I just want to fix that. Don't be afraid to make changes, even if it goes against what your original curves were. That's it. So this one looks kind of strange. Like the upper hairs intersecting with the lower one. So we're just gonna pull up the tip like that a little bit. I think these other ones are mostly okay, but we'll make small adjustments. Yep. All right. So in this instance here, sometimes you have the areas that are clipping, right? Because the curve itself is clipping. So you just have to pull that out. So sometimes you have to deal with some small tedious stuff, but just take your time, work through it. And moving these around is going to mess up the orientation, as you can see. So you have to correct it afterwards. And this one, even before I move it back to the scalp, I can see it's going to have an issue. So let's move it right now. As you can see, we're getting pretty close, so I'm just gonna unpause the recording for this last bit. So we finish off this little crown area. Most of these front pieces are already pretty aligned pretty well, so we don't have to make too many adjustments to these. That's fine. Okay, we have a bad one here. Smooth it out a little bit. Okay. Again, what we're doing is we're lining it up with the scalp mostly, right? And the reason we're doing that is because we want to keep the silhouette pretty clean and very similar to the groom. Okay. Pretty good. Okay. That root. Then the F key on your keyboard is your friend with this because it centers the camera, whatever you have selected. I also just want to emphasize too, like this is just a fill layer, so I'm working through it pretty quickly. Um, when we get to the more detailed, like actual, um, the primary clumps and everything, we'll slow down a little bit, but we can kind of get through these in big chunks pretty quickly. Okay. 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 These ones look kind of bad, right? Okay. Better. Okay. 5 more. Okay. 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 All right. So that's the first pass with the fill layer. And obviously we have some gaps to fill. I'll go over that in the next video. It's pretty straightforward, but let's compare. Yep. So pretty similar shape, as you can see. Aside from some of the gaps we need to fill in. Just as a preview, all we're going to do is basically this. I'm going to take our existing curves. Just do like a duplicate here on the GS curve tools. I'm actually not sure if the layer you have matters. Let's try putting 2 to see. Duplicate. No, I think it just duplicates it to the same layer. Okay, that's good. So you do that. We'll adjust the placement of the curve. Oop. Must have selected the wrong thing. Let's see, is there a growth cap for the scalp? Yeah, let's use that. Okay. Okay, now should be good. Okay. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go through it and just make adjustments like that and keep filling in cards. So that if you're following along, you can do that too. But we're just going to clean this up next time and get this looking good. And this is one of the heavier layers, so aside from that, I think the body will probably take the longest, which is all of this stuff. And then, let's see. That should be quick. It's just a few pieces, right? The fringe. The stuff we have to work through. We have to work through all these descriptions, recreating them with cards, basically. So then we finally get this result with cards. That's going to be how we work through it. So, and we'll work ideally bottom to top too, as much as possible. So we'll start with the body next after we finish this. All right, I'm going to call this video, and then the next one, we'll finish this fill layer. Thanks.